Hi guys, my name is Christine and I'm a dating, relationship and personal development coach. And today I'm talking about the worst thing to do after a breakup. So personally, I think the worst thing you can do after a breakup is to go into a rebound, like straight away, like within the first few weeks of a breakup, even the first like couple of months really. Because what you need to understand is that it takes time to like really get over a relationship. And I always say to people, if you've only been with them for a few months, it wasn't really like too much of a long term thing, um, then you'll probably need about 6 months really to get over them. But if you were together for a year or multiple years, then you'll need at least a year to really get over that relationship and to process everything. Right, so you need really basically a year out, right, to really get over a relationship and to just have time to yourself, especially if you was in a long term one, right? So with that being said, if you need that amount of time to like really like process things, a rebound really isn't it's just such a bad idea. And the reason why it is because often, first of all, rebounds don't last very long, and you can end up feeling a bit crummy about yourself because it wasn't something that lasted. But also, because you've not had time to process the old relationship, you're bringing all of basically the old baggage from your old relationship into a new one, right? And that's usually the reason why rebounds never last, or if they do last, they're not generally very happy relationships, you see. So and it's just not a good idea essentially, right? And often most people regret rebound relationships. And one of the reasons why I think is sometimes you can lower your standards a little bit as well, because let's say you went through a breakup, it was particularly hard, and let's say your ex is also in a rebound or something like that. You can feel like, oh, I just need to get with someone, I just need to get with someone. And sometimes you can end up in a rebound where and going on dates with people that are really not actually your type, but because you're trying to make something happen and you're trying to pretend basically how over you are of your ex, you can make some really wrong choices and really wrong decisions on who you're seeing, right? And then afterwards, you can feel really crummy and gross about yourself because you lowered your standards, right? So that's something that you definitely don't want to do, but it's what a lot of people do. When they go into a rebound, they've completely lowered their standards, whether it's in personality wise and they end up with someone horrible, or looks wise and they're actually dating someone they're not even that attracted to. So it's just not good. It's just not going to make you feel good about yourself. So the worst thing you can do is go into a rebound. Okay, it really is. You need time to heal, to get over the relationship, right? And even if it seems like your ex is really happy in their rebound or whatever they're doing, it's still a good idea to just focus on yourself, to take the time out, to enjoy being alone, being single, because I believe that's so important. If you want to find a healthy relationship, you've got to know that if something were to happen in any relationship that you have in the future, right, that you're going to be okay if it ends, because you know what to do, you know how to entertain yourself, you know how to keep your mind off things, you know how to keep your mind preoccupied, you've got healthy habits that keep you strong mentally and physically, right? So you know that you don't actually mind being on your own and you enjoy being alone, right? So you got to get to that point you actually enjoy being on your own, right? Because your partner is supposed to be a complement to your life. They shouldn't be your whole life, okay? It's obviously good to have a partner to share things with, to share experiences with, right? But you can only really do that once you've learned that it's going to be okay if I'm single, right? Because if you feel like I cannot be single, I have to be in a relationship, right? Then relationships are going to control you your whole life, right? And other people are going to control you your whole life because you're at the mercy of that person that brings you happiness, you see. So rebounds, bad, bad idea. Monkey branching is even worse because you've had zero time to process anything as well. So that not a good idea. Okay. So there's some other things as well, but that was what I think is the main thing you shouldn't do after a breakup. And so the next thing is like a lot of people when they go for a breakup, they overindulge in things that are not good for them. So you hear about like people going out and getting really drunk with their friends, or they like change their wardrobe to something more dramatic, or they get a haircut, right? Which sometimes might help, but it shows that you're not. It shows that you care too much, basically, right? And your behavior is erratic because you're doing all these different things like cutting your hair and having a new haircut and changing your outfits and things like that. And it just shows that things aren't going well in your head, right? So you don't. Another thing that people do as well is that sometimes they can get totally depressed, and start overindulging in food or alcohol or other substances, or they start basically just wasting their time doing things that are not good for them, like watching too much Netflix, playing too many video games, right? Because they're basically they're just trying to avoid the pain. They're trying to numb the pain with all these different substances and activities because they can't just be alone, right? And that's another reason why it's important to learn to like being alone and to enjoy being in your own company and knowing how to use that time wisely and productively, right? It just shows that you just really need to enjoy being on your own, right? Because if you don't like being on your own, you're going to do these things, right? You're going to do things that are not good for you. And what's worse is that, breakups are hard enough, right? Breakup, especially if you got broken up with, right? And you got dumped, your self-esteem is already low. And if you overindulge in all these different things, then it's just going to get lower and lower, and you're just going to feel worse and worse and worse about yourself, right? So, with that being said, you got to do the opposite of that, right? And to not overindulge, to do actually things that will lift you up, right? That will build you up, that will make you feel good about yourself, you see, right? You need to do things like exercise regularly. That'll make you feel good about yourself. Eat the right things. Yeah, sure, you can eat some junk here and there, but, keep it to like the 80-20 rule. Like 20% of the time, just eat what you want. 80% of the time, you eat really healthy foods or, nourishing foods at least. When it comes to diet, like I'm not a dietitian, but there are a lot of different things that work for different people. Some people, really thrive off like a keto diet. Some people really thrive off like just an all meat diet and a carnivore diet. Right, so you got to figure out what's right for you, basically, and what builds you up and makes you feel good about yourself, or makes you not feel sluggish. Right, so you might need to experiment if you don't know what that is, but you got to focus on those things. Do things that are good for you. Hang around people that are not going to make you feel worse about yourself. People that build you up, build up your confidence, right? And to work on different things. Work on things that are really important to you. Try and make your life better for yourself, right? Try and figure out where you would like to be in 5 years' time, and then try and work towards that every single day so you can start making progress, basically taking action on a lot of different things, right? Because that'll make you feel good about yourself, that'll make you feel more confident about yourself, that'll make you feel better about yourself, rather than doing the opposite, which is just sitting around doing nothing and overindulging in things you shouldn't really be doing, but that just ultimately makes you feel worse. Because the thing is with when you overindulge, which is kind of the tricky thing, and it can trick a lot of people actually as well, is that when you overindulge in like food, like it feels good in the moment, right? It feels really good, and you feel like you're doing something good for yourself because you're getting that endorphin release, or serotonin and dopamine and all that kind of stuff, right? You get all the good hormones when you're doing something that's kind of bad for you, right? Like, or when you're drinking or using other substances, or you're watching Netflix, like it feels good in the moment. It feels like, so relaxing, But ultimately, if you spend too much time doing that, what happens is you start to feel really sluggish and you start to feel really bad about yourself, right? And you start to regret it. You're like, oh, damn it, I really wish I hadn't spent the whole weekend eating pizza and playing video games. I really wish I had actually done something productive, like go to the gym, or I wish I had read that book that's on my desk that I've been meaning to read, and things like that. So even because basically these overindulgence things are good in the short term, right? They feel good in the short term, but overall in the long term they're not good, and they're not good for your mental health, and they're not good for your physical body. They're not good for anything, okay? So that's the tricky thing, because it does feel good in the moment, right? But you got to realize that actually I've got to look for long-term satisfaction, right? I've got to think of the things that are perhaps maybe difficult in the moment, but make me feel better over the long run, okay? So that's really important. So ultimately, you got to do things that, instead of making you feel crappy about yourself, that actually make you feel really proud of yourself instead, okay? So there's a quote that I really like by Dale Carnegie, and I think that really sums this video up. And that is, inaction breeds doubt and fear. Action breeds confidence and courage. If you want to conquer fear, do not sit at home and think about it. Go out and get busy. So not taking action, sitting on the sofa, doing nothing, eating things that are not good for you, drinking things that are not good for you, taking other substances that are not good for you, that's not going to make you feel good. That's just going to make you feel more doubtful, more fearful about life and life in the long run for yourself. Whereas if you take action, right, and you take action on your goals and your dreams, and you're taking action like just by exercising and things like that, and doing things that are good for you, that are good for your body, that are good for your mind, mental strength, those are the things that are going to give you confidence and courage, right? Even if they kind of are a little bit suckish in the moment. Like, you know, everyone knows, like, when they go for a workout, they're like, oh, hate doing workouts, don't want to do it, hate it, I don't want to do anything, I just want to sit down, I just want to watch TV, right? But after they've done it, they feel really good, they feel really pumped, they feel amazing about themselves, right? And obviously, like, endorphins come into play because of that, but also it's because you've accomplished something as well, right? It's kind of like a two-edged thing. Like, you feel accomplished, and also you feel good because you've released those endorphins and you've moved your body, and that makes you feel really good about yourself, right? So taking action as simple as just doing something like that will make you feel good about yourself, right? So another quote that I really like as well is a quote by Viktor Frankl, which goes, when a man can't find a deep sense of meaning, they distract themselves with pleasure. So if you've got nothing in your life, and let's say your ex was your whole life, then there's no wonder why you are distracting yourself with pleasurable activities like eating a lot of junk food, or watching too much TV, playing too many video games, right? Spending too much time doing those kinds of activities, or overindulging, basically, in things that feel good in the moment but aren't necessarily bringing you any kind of benefit in the long run, right? And so basically the answer to that then is to find meaning, right? To find something that brings you a lot of meaning, whether it's like a project, right? Or some kind of activity, or maybe it's something to do with your job, or maybe it's some sort of like volunteering thing that you're doing, right? So you got to find something that brings you a lot of meaning. It could be that your health and fitness is your whole meaning, something like that, like trying to get into a better shape. Perhaps that might be enough of meaning for you, right? But you got to find something that's meaningful to you, that excites you, that gives you a lot of inspiration, right? And I think when I say that kind of thing, there's a few things that would pop usually into the other person's mind who's viewing that, right? So who's listening to these words, you know, something is popping into your head when you hear me say, you got to find something that brings you meaning, right? There's something that you know that you should be doing, something that you know you should be tackling, something you know you should be really indulging in, right? That's going to make you feel good about yourself, right? Because it's meaningful to you, right? Because it brings you that inspiration, it brings you that drive, okay? So if you do that, you're going to feel way better about yourself, right? So you've got to find some meaning in your life. So thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to get in touch with me personally and you'd like coaching with me, then please go to www.christineloveridge.com. I shall talk to you again very soon. Goodbye.